All right, 10 April 2022. You are welcome on JCTV Africa and Zim Social Network. To all that are watching us this time of the day. Today we are going to look at the Patriotic Bill that have been tabled in Parliament earlier this week, and it is promising to crack down on people that are unpatriotic, especially when they speak about or they criticize the government. And there's a lot of things that are there, and we're going to unpack that today. Is it good for our government? Is it good for investment? Why is it coming now? And to help me unpack this, I'm joined today by Eliad Kajume, who is a political scientist from the Midland State University, and is going to help us unpack this bill as we look at what are the pros and the cons of such a law that is going to be put in our government. How will it benefit us? And we're going to look in all that today. And you're also welcome to comment, to leave your questions on the comment section. And later, we're going to allow you to be part of this conversation. You can actually request and join in. Mr. Eliad, how are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. I'm doing fine, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. You are the political scientist. We want to understand what is happening with this bill. Have you had a time to look at it, and what does it entail to the ordinary man in the streets if they are going to be caught up on the wrong side of this bill, if it gets enacted in Parliament? What is going to happen to someone if they are caught on the wrong side of the bill?
I would like to first of all say thank you for the opportunity to be part of this discussion. I will try as best as possible to give it and explain in layman's terms.
Okay.
Generally, Zimbabwe has been drawing parallel arguments basing from the Logan Act of USA of
Okay.
1991. They've been trying to work on that bill, which was enacted in 1971 as a form of showing patriotism to the nation, to say that they should promote national interest at all stake as a country. That was in 1999. And, it went through and they realized that the bill was helping in the suppression of opponents and suppression of political voices in the United States. Therefore, to the time of 2020 in May, the parliament tabled it and said it is unconstitutional as it is suppressing and it is used as a political weapon to suppress political opponents in the country. Therefore, they advocated that it be repealed. It is, however, unfortunate that our government, during the same time when this was being repealed in USA, our government in 2020, in August, they were moving in the motion to start and discuss about the patriotic bill in our own country. And generally, the patriotic bill in our country, they are saying it is there to promote and to guard the country's national interest. It is, however, unfortunate considering that our country is a dictatorship, and we all know that whatever form of legislation or an act they may be trying to enact, considering that at this point they claim to be the majority, it is there to criminalize opposition and suppression of voices that are there to criticize it. And also, they say it criminalizes acts that campaign against Zimbabwe. And we all know that it has not always been the case, but the case is to be criminalizing people that speak against ZANU-PF in layman's terms. And some of these, they say, and the criminalization of such is not limited to correspondence with foreign governments. They argue to say Such correspondents should not speak false statements that are there to influence foreign governments or any other such conduct aimed at undermining the country. Generally, those are the entails of the patriotic bill as they are trying to put it, as if they are trying to make it sweet and sound sweet to say that we are protecting the national interest, but we all know that is not the case. The case is trying to suppress uh, freedom of speech in the country and to ensure that ZANU-PF is not criticized by the masses in our own country, to ensure that everyone speaks in agreement to them only, which it can be because they claim that our country is a democratic state and we should also be able to express our voices uh, democratically as enshrined in our constitution in section 61 of the constitution, which gives us the right to freedom of expression to seek and receive, communicate ideas that are politically related. I am not hearing you anymore.
Okay. You saying that you are bringing in this understanding that there is this is only to the interest of the ruling party, which we know they've got the majority and they can go ahead and enact. We saw they enacted the likes of MOPA, and in the 2000s they also enacted IPA and POSA. Are we not seeing because they said they were going to repeal IPA and POSA, are we not seeing a repetition of POSA and IPA, which was probably a brainchild of those laws that Ian Smith had? So, in your own view, are we moving in the right direction, or we are actually going maybe 30 years behind?
Uh, the direction that we are moving towards is the same that we were before, and even worse than we were. And it's quite
Mm,
unfortunate in that. Because if we look at uh, MOPA now, the maintenance of order and what act, it is the same
yes.
as we were with IPA. We are just having a reincarnation of the same old thing. And
Mm.
we're having also, through the Patriotic Bill, the reincarnation of, uh, of, of the one, that one, the information one. What's the name of it? We are having a reincarnation of information to privacy and act of that bill of 2002 is through the patriotic bill, because they are only trying to protect the information from the state, saying that there are things that you cannot speak against the state, as it was enacted in 2002 to say that foreign journalists and correspondents should seek permission from the government to speak some information and have it given to them without just them coming in and reporting information that is inconsistent with the interests of the state. So, in general terms, we are not moving any further. We are actually moving back, as it is against democrats that they are doing this, as enshrined in the Constitution in Section 61. It is also against the dictates of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of Article 19 of the United Nations, which also talks of civil and political rights of people, that we should be having and accessing the same information as well. Article 9 of the African Charter also says the same thing, that people have got rights and should have access to information, you know. So, generally, we are not moving any further, but we are moving back since, for example, if you saw what has been happening through social media, uh, a lot
Yeah.
of uh, a lot of as they label themselves Varakashi, have been on
Mm.
Hopewell back and back, trying to say that he's being unpatriotic by revealing corruption and all sorts of mismanagement that is happening in Zimbabwe, all the forms of looting that has been revealing it uh, in Switzerland. They've been trying to say that it is unpatriotic, and it is said to note that upon request by the majority of Zimbabweans on social media that they should review if there is any of cancer machines. No one is so far revealed that there is any cancer machine to talk about in our country.
You speak of that. I mean, coming to the issue of Wapro, I've seen a lot of backlash that came from the likes of lead president Linda Masarira, saying that Hopewell is, she was saying something that was to say you can never denigrate your own country, something like that. And my question is, uh, who is behind this? Because I can see that are they targeting Hope Washington? Because remember, in 2020, that's when we saw Hope Washington being arrested on Trump up charges that the High Court has dismissed. Are we not? Are we seeing maybe an issue of saying they want to create a law that can enable them to then arrest people, and then like what they did with Waposhingono, and then they can use that bill because we saw that they were embarrassed because the one that they also used earlier last year in January when they arrested him, it was found that the law does not exist. Are we not seeing the repetition of the same, or they want just now to say, we couldn't find laws to prosecute you, now we will be having laws to prosecute journalists, prosecute activists, prosecute opposition leaders? Are we not seeing this coming into play? And maybe on that note, whose idea is behind this? Because we know the POSA and IPA, it was brainchild of Professor Jonathan Moy, whose idea is behind this law.
First of all, I would argue to say we are not seeing anything new. It is the same
Mm.
like we were saying. It is
Yeah.
access to information and privacy of and protection of privacy act in Zimbabwe, like we were saying. It's the same that is being put now to say
Mm.
we are talking about the Patriotic Bill. And this has always been the idea of ZANU-PF since the formation of IPA, MOPA, all those other repressive acts. They just put it into parliament. All those members of parliament in our parliament, which belong to ZANU-PF, they are just there as stooges put there to represent ZANU-PF ideas and ideologies. And it is quite unfortunate and sad that most of them would not even bother to try and see the importance and relevance of such laws. They think maybe they're living in a different the world which is separate from other people. And of course, these laws are always there to ensure that the suppression of voices of opposition in our country. To say that this is now being created for Opo Chungono alone can be mistaken. It is not Opo Chungono alone. It is created to ensure that not even one person, even from the opposition, activists, the civil society, not say anything in order to fight the regime. Like we are seeing now, they are even saying it is being unpatriotic to review corruption. It is being unpatriotic to review all the forms of state governance in our country. It is quite sad that they are saying that, and they are trying to use this to criminalize anyone who is going to criticize the government. It is upon those bases that they're trying to create this repressive law to ensure that people do not protest, say anything, or any form of speech that they're going to.
Hmm. All right. But one might say, okay, but one might say, if you look at it, if you reveal corruption, are you not then chasing investment away? Because investors they read the news, and if we stop you from publishing about the corruption that is happening, then the investors will come and then they invest. Are you not trying to chase away investors that would want to come and invest in Zimbabwe because you are publishing falsehoods, or as they are saying? One might say that you guys are actually chasing away investment with your investigations and all of that. What do you say about that? Is it not chasing away investment if I say I review corruption that happened there, I review corruption that is happening there? Why investors let them come and find out for themselves?
We had a lot of interested investors who wanted to invest in our country. To say that there's corruption in Zimbabwe, it is not a form of or lack of patriotism. It is the reality in our nation. And saying that there's patriotism, there's corruption, it should not be a form of persecution facing a person who reviews such information. It is a form of accountability that the nation will be demanding. It is actually a constitutional right, and seeking that accountability, it is important to the nation. It helps us develop our nation. It helps us have trust in our leaders, and such leaders should be accountable to the people whenever we talk of corruption. The issue of chasing away investors is a different case, and we can never talk of saying because we are revealing corruption, now we are chasing away investors. Why don't we stop corruption and attract investors? We've had a lot of investors who were turned away because of government officials seeking bribe because they wanted companies to bribe them so that they can invest in our countries. So such corruption actually from the government officials is the biggest problem that has been chasing away investors from our country. You know, it is it is more dangerous in the side of the government than we are revealing it. We are revealing it to ensure that there's accountability, there is transparency, and there's good governance in Zimbabwe. Corruption is revealed because it is our money as the citizens that is being looted and taken away from us. Yes.
There you have it, viewers and listeners that are watching here on JCTV Africa and also on Zim Social Network. We are talking about the Patriotic Bill that is coming and how it's going to affect you as a citizen. And we are unpacking this with Eliad Kajume, who is a graduate from the Midland State University, and he's helping us unpack this bill and seeing how bad it is for our survival as the citizens. So, on that note, Mr. Kajume, how can we, as the citizens, stop this bill from happening? Are we just going to wait and see it happen? Are there ways, are there avenues that we can explore to stop this bill from happening in this coming future? Because it's going to be tabled and people are going to keep on debating and then eventually get passed. What can we do in order to get this maybe bill not to see the light of day?
Uh, we have a difficult scenario, and it is probably going to be one of the darkest moments again in the history of lawmaking in our country. Because we have ZANU-PF with many of its MPs in parliament, and that may be a greater factor. The best possible way we should work on is ensure that we try and appeal to the voice of reason from those MPs that belong to ZANU-PF and say, look, this bill is not just a bill. We have to work on this to ensure that democracy develops in our country. We have to appeal to them and say, democracy is important for the development of our country. We have seen that democracy is only the way we can be able to develop, looking at some many other countries that are developing. And we've seen that dictatorship has not done anything to our economy from the time of 1980 until this period, which is about 42 years now of independence. We have not achieved anything with dictatorship. Considering that we have few MPs of the opposition and who are quite active enough to speak against this, is going to be a difficult time. And however, more to that, people are the ones that dictate how our government should be run. If people speak out and say we do not want this as the majority and say no, we are against this, I think that is the best way we can deal away with this. To say, as the people, we do not want this, and appeal to those MPs and Senate members to say, please, this is not necessary. Let's look for other means that are necessary to develop our country than to enact laws that are going to put us in chains and put us way back than we should be going forward.
David, viewers and listeners, you are speaking about the issue of we probably going against this bill, and ZANU-PF might go ahead and enact it anyway. Are people aware of this bill? And is our opposition doing enough to make sure that they educate the people from getting this bill to be enacted? Because I'm not seeing that noise happening, because obviously they are also going to be affected. Why are they not putting the word out there to say, let's stop this bill, probably much using the provisions of the Constitution? Why are we not seeing opposition members making noise about this bill to say, let it not happen? Because if it happens, we are going to be in trouble and that is going to chase away investment. Why are we not seeing that from the opposition?
The biggest problem we have in our country, we have people that are less active and are not very much interested in the politics of our nation. You would be
Mm,
surprised that if you go into the streets and ask anything from the Constitution, or at least to say, tell me one thing that you know about our Constitution, one law that you know from the Constitution that you can talk about. Even just the Declaration of Human Rights, to say, where do you find it? Even where it says that let's demonstrate and it is a right, our right, you would realize and see that people don't even know anything about that. If you
mm,
look into it, you realize that people are very ignorant. And the biggest thing that the opposition and anyone who is interested in changing the society and our nation, including the civil society and everyone who is an activist, is to ensure that people learn and understand the basic laws that govern the nation, to get them to understand first. It is quite unfortunate that the opposition itself has been facing a lot of challenges being directed to it by the ruling party, that their main focus has been to restructure itself more than it has to scrutinize and review all the forms of laws which ZANPF is trying to enact now. So what they should do now is ensure that the public is aware of this law through all means necessary, trying to educate, inform from social media, from radio stations, if ever they get access. That is the best way they can and inform the masses. Because I've realized that even I've been on Twitter, even if people are having that debate, I see there are few people who are even interested in attending such conversations. People are generally too passive and not interested to focus on such conversations. They just think that our politics, there's people who are called to do that, and they don't even think politics affect them. These laws, they don't even think they affect them. It just appears to them like any other laws which has been passed in our country, and it is quite unfortunate in that regard. Yes.
there you have it, Mr. Elliot. There is a question from Ariel K. Marufu, and I think maybe I'll bundle some of the questions that he has said. He is asking the question, so how will the CC operate with this bill? How will an opposition party win in 2023 with this bill? Um, and then he says China is a dictatorship and is doing all right. Um, how then are you going to say, okay, we are a democratic country, but that does not observe the democratic rights. We are in the dictatorship, but we are not doing okay. But there is a country that is known for not uh, being a democratic, it's a communist country. They are doing okay. Where are we getting it wrong? Why is it our dictatorship is not working? In this case, maybe I can bundle these two questions together. If you can tackle them, Elliot.
Uh, the issue of winning elections and the Patriotic Bill, we cannot entirely tie them together at once and try to come up with the same conclusion. The
Mm,
issue of winning elections is to do with the opposition calling for reforms with ZEC. It has to do with a lot of people registering to vote and turning up to vote, like the people in
mm.
Zambia did. They registered to vote in numbers, they went to vote in numbers, and they voted in numbers. And they defended the vote and they won the election because they were consistent in what they were doing. The issue of the patriotic bill, we have to fight it independent of itself to say that we need to have freedom of speech. We cannot entirely tie it on the issue of CCC winning the elections. Of course, we need freedom of speech and all those things, but winning an election only needs people to be vigilant, vote numbers, register, defend the vote, and ensure that we have reforms with sake, and that is the responsibility of the leaders. And to talk of China, China has been a dictator since its inception. It is quite true. But Zimbabwe is in a crisis of ideology. Zimbabwe tried to adopt an ideology from China and Russia when it was independent itself. And then it tried to also incorporate democracy from the period of 1990 through the introduction of ISAP and so forth. Now that Zimbabwe has tried and has even adopted democracy, let it live by those principles that it has put upon itself. We should not concentrate and focus on dictatorship when we are now trying to be a democracy at the same time. That crisis of ideology and an unstable relationship with an ideology is a big problem and will lead us not going anywhere as a nation. I think that
Yeah.
has been answered.
That is great, my brother Elliot. Thank you so much. Any last words that you want to give to our viewers that are watching right now as we close the program?
I think I would say that people should focus on understanding the law that govern our country. It is the
Yes.
right of every person to know that the constitution is there to defend us as the people. It is also important that we practice our democratic right through registering to vote, through voting and defending the vote, choosing the right leaders that we want as a nation, to have the right leaders that we want that represent our interest, ideas, and that represent the national interest. A patriotic bill is not forced upon the people. Patriotism is not forced upon individuals or the nation. Patriotism is a voluntary submission of an individual to say, I am going to submit myself to a nation basing on its social and economic and political factors, saying that I'm going to represent my country with love and dignity without being forced upon me. The moment it's forced upon me, I am there to reject it because as an individual, I have now been socialized to choosing what I want as an individual because of democracy that we have in our society. Thank you.
All right. Where can people find you, my brother, on social media? Where can people find you if they want to know some of your comments? I mean, some of your thoughts that you put out on social media. Are you on any social media platforms?
Yes, thank you, my brother. They can find me on Twitter mostly. I'm more active on Twitter when it comes to politics. It's Elad Kajume. The moment they just type it Elad Kajume, they'll find me there. Facebook, I'm not entirely active on politics, but they can find me as well. It's just Elad Kajume on Facebook, and they will be able to find me there.
All right. That is my brother Eliad Kajume. Hopefully, we are going to have him very soon on the program as he unpacks some of the things that we need to talk about that is bedeviling our country, especially when it comes to politics. And, they always say that if you don't do politics, politics will do you. And you understand that anytime you think you are you are ignorant of a law, it will affect you, and there is no defense in ignorance. On that note, I want to say, my brother, thank you so much for coming on such a short notice, and we hope that you be part of our program very soon.
Thank you very much, and I look forward to having you again next time.
All right. That was Eliad Kajume giving us his line of thought and what he thinks about the Patriotic Bill. Please go and follow him on Twitter. That is his handle that is on the screen. Go there and check out some of the posts. He posts some of the comments and he gives some great bright ideas that we need to inculcate in our political ideologies. And it is very important for us to look at that. On that note, I would like to say thank you to everyone that joined and everyone that supports JCTV Africa. We are available on Facebook. Please go there and like our Facebook page, JCTV Africa. And you can also check out some of the videos that we've done in the past. I've also posted some videos that are available on YouTube. On that note, I'd like to say thank you and please have a great night. If you have any comments, let me see if I've got anyone here before I close. Okay. Thank you so much to Musa, Ariel, K, Marufu. Thank you. And everyone that was watching. We would like to appreciate you for your presence on this channel.